planting a tree, you really need to think about soil moisture. You really need to have your soil be well drained. If there's standing water in your location, a tree's just not going to survive. And it's not going to do as well if it has retained moisture for too long. You know, it can't dry out. It can struggle with disease, but if it's too wet, it just won't make it. So, it depends on your soil in your area, but preferably you want to make sure that it's well drained. So take a look at your planting site, dig a hole, watch to see if it sits very moist. Another good indicator is if you see standing water at the site for even one time a year or once every other year, that standing water will kill a tree if it sits for even a couple days. So most fruiting and hard-massed trees they just can't take wet feet. And so a good example of that is actually this tree next to me. I planted this tree down here on the perimeter edge. I was hoping to get a nice little stock collection of some of our persimmons on this edge, but I planted one just to be sure. And a little context, we're at the very bottom of our hill. We have a large hill, which means that this is receiving all of the rain water. And this tree I planted about 4 or 5 years ago. And at this point, I would expect that this tree would be a lot larger. I would expect it to have better health, but it just hasn't taken off, and it hasn't done very well. And that's because I think this area has a lot of moisture. It retains a lot of water. It doesn't have standing water, but it is a little bit too moist, I think. Not to mention, right behind us, we have a lot of irrigation, and that irrigation sheds to this area as well, keeping this area, I think, a little bit too moist. So, it's something to think about. This tree's going to do just fine, but in the long term, it just may take a little bit longer to get larger. And that's something you can see sometimes when a tree doesn't have enough water or has a little too much water too frequently. It can stunt the growth and also make it a little bit more susceptible to disease. So make sure to go out, get familiar with your property, and get familiar with the soil types that you have in your land so that you can pick the best spot to plant trees.